Take your place in the Coaching Lounge. Be inspired by discussions with motivational guests, compelling speakers, key people of influence, and models of success. Learn unique processes, strategies, and tips that will transform your life. Tune into previous episodes on www.thecoachinglounge.co.uk. Like our page on Facebook via The Coaching Lounge. Follow us on Twitter @SatelliteCoach. Thank you for joining your host, Rebecca Gordon, in The Coaching Lounge. Tune in, relax, engage, and transform your life now. Greetings and welcome to the Coaching Lounge. I'm your host, Rebecca Gordon, and I'm really pleased to be joined today by Jayne Evans, who is a yoga instructor. Today, our discussion is beneficial for raising great awareness on the principles and practice of an holistic art that works on every level of the mind, body, and soul. We know about yoga. However, I feel that in today's show, we'll really dig deep and understand even more some essential and vital things regarding posture, conscious breathing, hand gestures, eye focus, and sound vibration with Jayne. And there are particular things in those elements that I'm really going to want to ask Jayne more about. So what Jayne shares with us today will help you come to a greater awareness of your inner self. And I'm just going to introduce Jayne into the Coaching Lounge because we don't have much time. 30 minutes goes really, really quickly. And Jayne has so much to share with us. Welcome to the Coaching Lounge, Jayne.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. It's great to be having this discussion with you, Jayne. I'd like to understand your journey and the journey particularly into Kundalini Yoga.
Okay, so if you're sitting comfortably.
Oh, yes, very much so, yes. Yeah.
Well, I had what I can only describe as a very interesting 2 years where my partner of 17 years left me and then my auntie died. Sadly, my father had been ill for quite a long time, but then he passed away. And then about 6 weeks after his funeral, my mum went into a coma for 6 weeks. So as you can imagine, I wasn't really in the best of places. And actually, Kundalini Yoga found me. It was one of those mornings, you can't sleep, everything's going on, everything's rushing through your head. And I took myself downstairs and thought, what distraction can I do at 4 o'clock in the morning? So I put a bit of TV on. And there was Maya Fines doing the Mul Mantra and Kundalini Yoga, and it was like a bolt from the blue. And I was like, what is this about? What's going on? What's this meditation? What's she doing? And I took up Kundalini Yoga just like that. I hadn't been practicing yoga previously.
Right. And how long ago was that?
That was 2010.
2010, okay. And just immediately you've said, you had all this trauma in your life. You were restless, you couldn't sleep, I know that many of us have had sleepless nights, And it's interesting to recognize that sometimes in the most challenging times is when magical and great things happen. Just to help us in that moment. And I'm great. I'm so glad that happened for you. So you went downstairs, you put the TV on, and you saw this lady doing yoga, and you had this immediate connection.
Absolutely. And it was like, I really do have to find out more about this. So that's what I set out to do.
Okay. So this might be the right time to ask you then, what exactly is Kundalini Yoga?
Okay, Kundalini Yoga is a very ancient technology, which, as you mentioned into your introduction, allows you to work not just on postures. So you're not just focusing on, getting a good posture, but you're also using sound, which clears the mind, so meditation elements. And it basically works on every element of you to bring you back into a neutral state. So rather than having a lot of reaction to what's going on, you're able to breathe. That sounds so underrated, but I spent 23 years lecturing photography and digital imaging, and when I came to yoga, I actually realised I probably hadn't breathed properly for about 12 years.
Because we tend to breathe quite shallow, don't we, generally?
Absolutely. And when you're under a lot of stress, you know those panicky feelings you get in your chest is mainly because, of course, we're not allowing ourselves the time to breathe. Of course, you're doing enough to stay alive. We all manage that.
Yes. Yeah.
But not in that deeper sense. So it's very much Kundalini Yoga is that awareness of yourself. How am I breathing? What am I eating? How am I carrying myself? Not just posturally, but in the world generally,
It's raising.
Absolutely, raising your awareness.
Yes. And to be conscious of that. I'm actually going to focus now on the different elements, if that's okay. And once we focus on the elements, then we can talk about the benefits.
Relax in the coaching lounge and engage with compelling, motivational speakers. Be prepared to transform your inner world, to shape your outer world through empowering discussions. Tune into thecoachinglounge.co.uk now.
So what I want to do now, Jayne, is just touch on each of the specific elements. And sometimes it is, as you've said, we don't recognize the importance of breathing deeply, conscious breathing. And, as a life coach, one of the techniques that we use is, just stop what you're doing for a moment, just sit back and relax and just breathe and just have some rhythmic breathing. So what I want you to do at this moment, please, is just help us to understand how to breathe correctly and understand you've used the word technology of conscious breathing. Can you do that for us, please?
Sure. So we could start off when we think about consciously breathing with the long, deep breath. Purely because there's a rather large nerve in your chest called the vagus nerve, which actually sends information to your brain about your current situation. So if we're breathing shallowly, that sends the message to the brain that, there is some sort of problem. You may be under attack. Okay, we're not being chased by lions, tigers and bears anymore, but there may be some external pressure that is causing that to happen. So, of course, body naturally then thinks, well, okay, I need to deal with this. So what am I going to do? Am I going to run away? You've no doubt come across fight and flight before. Or am I going to stand here and, put them up and get on with it? So when we're breathing shallowly, it's actually sending a message to the brain that it needs to do other things rather than to be relaxed, of course. So when we begin to breathe long and deep, we're actually fully expanding the lungs, which is stretching out the chest further, bringing the breath up into the collarbones. And as you exhale, it's bringing that navel back towards the spine and, very importantly, getting rid of that CO2 then that you don't need.
I must say, Jayne, I'm almost falling asleep. I feel so relaxed just listening to the sound of your voice. And actually, I feel like I'm in a class.
Excellent. So without falling asleep,
yes,
we'll concentrate a little bit more on that breath, because, of course, some people actually breathe backwards. Women particularly, we've been in this situation where it's like, oh, come on, keep your stomach in, look small.
Yeah, hold everything in, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, of course, where are your lungs supposed to fill up if you're holding your stomach in? So when we breathe in, we're actually expanding, getting bigger, feeling all that lovely, fresh prana coming in. And as we exhale, that's when we want to get smaller, that's when the navel wants to come towards the spine. And again, take as much time on the exhale as we do on the inhale, because we do want to let go of stuff. It's very easy to start carrying around wasted energy, and picking things up. And just by bringing that navel closer towards the spine, letting go of everything, that's the beginning of this awareness of the breath, the ability to consciously breathe, and as you were saying, to begin then to relax.
Because I must say, I'm actually doing this deep breathing now, and I feel clearer already. Can you explain prana, please?
Okay, prana, rather larger than the breath. We tend to link these two things together because, of course, the root of that word, pranayam, is bringing our life energy. But, of course, prana is the life force itself. And from a Kundalini point of view, we've all got this energy within us, this prana. So if we're stifling our ability to bring that in, or indeed to let go, then that too is affecting how we're able to be consciously conscious.
And when a baby is born and they take their first breath, that is exercising that life force, isn't it? And just making it be known, and we have to make full use of it.
Absolutely.
And in terms of the breathing, just to help the listeners, I've read lots of different techniques about breathing, and there's counting in 4-4, and counting out, etc. as you breathe in and breathe out. Is there any particular thing that you would suggest to help one to get that rhythm of deep breathing?
Well, realistically, some people are not into the counting element. So for me, if you're beginning with a long deep breath, actually you can do something as simple as lying down on the floor, putting a little book on top of you or a cushion or something, and just checking that you are getting bigger than when you breathe in and getting smaller when you breathe out. So the breath is coming from the bottom of the lungs and then into the chest. And if you're breathing really deeply, you may feel a little bit of a raise in your collarbones. So actually, whilst of course, yes, there are lots of different types of breath, I'm concentrating on long deep breathing at the moment, because I think if you can get that to a point where it's actually very conscious, then all the other things we do, like the suspension of the breath, which is again helping with the parasympathetic nervous system, so your ability to calm down, and we do that either on the inhale or the exhale. So you can get to a point, for instance, if you're struggling with sleeping, where you then only focus on breathing through a specific nostril, so in this case through the left nostril. So our energy coming in through that left-hand side, our feminine side, what we would call the Ida, is allowing that moon energy, that calming sleepiness. So if you're finding you can't sleep at night, and perhaps you notice you actually sleep on your left-hand side, therefore your right nostril is dominant, that's going to be playing a little bit of a part in keeping you awake and keeping you energized, because that right-hand side is your sun side, your masculine side, and that will keep you up.
I see. Oh, that's interesting to know. Okay, so you've mentioned the feminine energy, and I just wanted to, the thought came to my mind that as women, we are quite busy, we're multitasking, doing so many different things, and sometimes within the workplace, we may have to bring in more of a masculine energy, or feel that we need to do that. What makes yoga so beneficial for women? Or would you say not necessarily beneficial just for women? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, certainly beneficial for everybody. Yoga I would recommend to absolutely everybody. So even if you think, oh gosh, actually my world is quite calm, I'm okay, I'm quite well balanced, to have that additional connection with your inner self. But from obviously being a woman ourselves,
Yes.
as you say, really, all this multitasking, running up and down, when do we find the time for ourselves? So to commit yourself to a regular practice, to have that time for you, I think is absolutely necessary.
Mm.
And not to see it as a selfish thing, or oh gosh, what's the Buddhist quote? If you can't find 5 minutes to meditate, then you should find an hour.
Right. Okay. Okay. Because it is a holistic thing. It helps on all levels of one's awareness, and we don't recognize that taking the time out, doing yoga can help you to function better at work, to have better relationships, because it's introducing, calmness and the triggers to help you or somebody to maintain that balanced level of being. Can you talk to me about posture? Because we've spoken about breathing and leading now into posture and the technicalities of that within yoga.
Okay, so again, it's a nice link actually, because if one considers maybe being at the computer for long periods of time, or even standing up, walking around for meetings, then what are we doing? Well, first of all, if we consider our posture at a desk, quite often we're leaning over. So again, the rib cage is collapsed, so we're affecting how well we're breathing. If we're spending a lot of time, running up and down, and I know from a photography point of view, think about the baggage that we carry, not just the emotional baggage.
Yeah, the physical baggage. Yeah.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
you may have all your workbooks hanging off your right hand shoulder. So you're causing curvature in the spine. And then, of course, the rest of your body is having to somehow balance that out. So when we think about we're getting back pain, or we're getting neck pain, or indeed we're getting headaches, actually a lot of this is posturally based.
I tell you
So
what, Jane, I mean, it's coming into September now. Children will be returning back to school. And, we all see these school children with these heavy backpacks on their back and they're bent and doubled over, in their teens when they're going off to secondary school. And we do actually need to help our children to be aware of that and how to balance themselves physically. Do you notice that, like with school children, with all the luggage and everything on the backs?
yes, and not just that, but going back to what we were saying earlier about, this link between women being encouraged to hold their stomach in so we're not breathing properly.
Right.
The other thing, of course, that we're encouraged to do is sit with our legs crossed.
Ah, okay.
So that's not good for your pelvis. It's not good for your posture.
Right. Okay. So it should be feet on the floor flat.
Absolutely. Nice straight spine. And of course, the Kundalini energy itself is very much about this movement of energy up and down the spine. If you're feeding your brain, which of course we are if we're flexible, we like to say in Kundalini that age is measured by the flexibility of your spine. So of course every class that you can then come to, we're just going to get that little bit younger.
That sounds absolutely superb. Okay,
again,
we're just
wanting to reach for things, again, things that we take for granted. Very much about that movement of the spine and staying flexible, because the flexibility of the spine brings the flexibility of thought, and the flexibility of thought allows you to stay more centered in all the situations that life might throw at you.
right. Okay. So we're in the coaching lounge with Jayne Evans, who's a yoga instructor, and we are hearing the benefits of Kundalini Yoga, particularly in terms of conscious breathing and posture, and why we should consider yoga as an ancient technology and practice that can help us to have balanced well-being in our busy lives. And we're just going to take a short break and return with Jayne and talk some more about yoga awareness. We commit to helping you accelerate your success through coaching and training. When you work with us, you can expect to have massive achievement in your personal and professional life. Visit www.jayneevans.com SatelliteLifeCoachingandTraining.com. Choose your slot for your free discovery coaching session and start your transformation today. Welcome back. We're in the coaching lounge with Jayne Evans, yoga instructor, and we're talking about Kundalini Yoga. Jayne, I want to now talk to you about the voice, about sound vibration, and this is the reason why. I'm of African descent, and through the passage of enslavement, etc., I don't know my exact heritage, but I do know, I'm an African, essentially. And looking at ancient African principles, I understand and I know that word, sound, and power is absolutely crucial because it is that vibration. So, for example, when we, in African names are very meaningful because it's the vibration that's uttered. And I want you to explain how sound vibration works from the perspective of yoga, please, and any link with what I've just mentioned.
Sure. Well, we could start off with something very basic, couldn't we? Whether you drive or whether you don't, or when we're in the shower, even when we begin to sing, you immediately know you start to get a smile on your face. You start to elevate from the sound. So we can link that directly to what's happening with the vibrations on the roof of our mouth. So you mentioned names. So when we chant mantra, all those elements of sound are included. So if I could give you an example, we have Satnam. So truth is the name, truth is the identity. And if we break that down into its individual sounds, we have the 5 primal sounds themselves. Sa, ta, na, ma. So we have that s sound, the t, the n, the m, and the ah that comes through all of them.
Okay, yes.
So Satanama, we have this cycle of life, of death, of rebirth. So when we're chanting something like that, we're actually in nature itself, in that constant vibration of everything having a beginning, coming into fruition, and of course needing to pass so that it can be reborn again. So as you make those sounds, and I'd invite you to, if you would like to, to do that. Sa, ta, na, ma. Sa, ta, na, ma. And you'll be able to feel that your tongue moves in different places on the roof of your mouth. Your lips make a different shape. And we're actually stimulating the 84 meridians on the roof of the mouth, which are then directly in connection with your glandular and endocrine systems. So you're rebalancing your whole brain function by the sound vibration.
How often should one or can one be chanting Satanama? How often?
Well, every day, no problem at all. If you are struggling for time, then realistically, you can do that for 3 minutes. We can do it for 11 minutes. There are clear links between the amount of time that we actually chant for and the effects on our system. You may be interested in, at the moment, there's a lot of research being done into that particular meditation and helping people with Alzheimer's. So it also has a hand movement, a mudra that goes with it. So with the sa, you're connecting your index finger and your thumb.
Okay.
With the ta, you're connecting your middle finger and your thumb. And then your ring finger, and then your small finger. So, each one of these mudras has a different connection with the hemispheres of the brain. and it's like reattuning those hemispheres.
Okay, and you're doing this with both hands when you're chanting Satanama.
Absolutely.
Yeah? Okay, great.
If people are interested in that particular one, you can of course find it widely on the internet. It's called Kirtan Kriya. That is Kartan, Kirtan Kriya. And as I say, there's a lot of links, not just good for Alzheimer's and the reconnection of the brain, but also good for women and menopause because it's helping with the hormones.
All right, okay. Now, Jayne, exciting and fascinating information. And when you first spoke about what Kundalini Yoga is, you said it's an ancient technology. And I actually like the word technology when we're talking about the body, because when you think about how the body's formed, the muscles, the nerves, how we move, the structure, and recognizing that we do actually have a powerhouse here, that we're not making full, we're not using to its full capacity. I'm going to ask you to explain some particular technical terms when it comes to the body, and one of them is meridians. Okay, because you've said there are 84 meridians. I'm sure you said in the mouth.
On the roof of your
On the
mouth,
roof of the mouth. Yeah. So, can you explain what meridians are and how we can work with these or support these to function well, and what we need to do?
Sure. Okay. Again, coming from different cultures, you may have different elements of this. So when we talk about meridians, that would be directly linked to Chinese and the acupuncture. In Kundalini, we think about these meridians as being part of the nadi system. So your nadis are the energy channels that run throughout the whole of your body. You're quite right, we mentioned these 84 on the roof of the mouth, but you've also got 72,000 nerve endings on the bottoms of your feet. So we are absolutely a moving, functioning piece of energy throughout. So our three main nadis would be one of those that we mentioned earlier, the Ida on this left-hand side channel of the breath, and the Pingala on the right, and then the Shushmana down the central channel. So if you like, we've got these main meridians, but then you've also got meridians energy pathways that are linking to the function of the lungs, the colon, your whole self realistically. So for instance, your lung meridian would be running along your arm from your thumb to your lung. So you can see how this technology starts to link up then. So the movement of the breath, the movement of the physical body. So for instance, if we are stretching out our arms and raising our hands up and down, you could actually be working on your lung meridian as you did that.
I see. Okay. So, for illnesses, etc., it's well worth recognizing or thinking about, okay, what the link is, and looking further into the meridian systems, which is why yoga, acupuncture, yes,
Sure,
and
yeah.
reflexology and massage all help, don't they, as holistic practices?
Of course, and that's an important thing, isn't it? That we do see ourselves as a whole, because of course we can go to the gym, we can jump up and down, we can work on our muscles, but how are we helping our nervous system? Are we clearing the junk of the brain? All those things that have been going on in the mind. So those 5 elements within Kundalini itself are enabling you to work on every facet of your 10 bodies. So just when you got used to just having the physical one,
The 10 bodies.
yes, we
Okay.
we have another 9 that go with those.
Right. So, Jayne, we're going to talk about the 10 bodies in a moment after the break, but can we just touch on the 5th element, which was eye focus, which is eye focus, yes?
Yes, absolutely. So You mentioned earlier, sometimes as women, and of course, this holds true for every member of the population, sometimes our mind gets a little bit busy.
Just a little bit?
So you might have your inner speech going on in whatever direction, or maybe several inner speeches going on.
Well, if you're a Gemini like me, well, yes. Okay.
So the element of the eye focus is to help you concentrate. So a popular thing that we would do, and you may have heard, is focus at the brow. So that little postage size stamp space in between your eyebrows.
The third eye,
There you
which,
go, the
yes,
third eye, of course.
yes.
So when we focus at the third eye, we're really stimulating our pituitary gland, which is the master gland of the entire system. So as well as helping that link to the third eye to your intuition, we're also really, again, very conscious about what's going on with those three minds. Equally, if you find that the mind is very, very busy, it may be more appropriate to actually focus at the tip of the nose. And I found that very helpful for me when I was quite low, because focusing at the tip of the nose really helps to quieten the mind and actually release more serotonin in the brain. So it gives you a little bit of a feel good factor in a natural way.
So you're saying the third eye essentially is a link to intuition. So one of the techniques is to focus on your nose or on that central area in the middle of your brow, and that will help to stimulate the pituitary gland, or is there more to it than that?
Well, of course, when we have any technology, you can begin to look at it at a number of levels. So if we went back to the tip of the nose, the first time people do that, they feel like they've gone a little bit cross-eyed.
Yes, yes.
But what's happening there is you're moving your optical nerve. So again, we're stimulating not just the pituitary, but the pineal and the hypothalamus. So you can start to see the reason why we're constantly going back to the technology of it is every angle, every triangle, so every posture, every breath, every conscious movement is actually like tuning your piano. You're changing the size of the strings, you're
Yes.
vibrating on the roof of the mouth, so you are encouraging your whole vibratory system, your whole self, to come back into tune.
Hmm. I like the sound of that. I like the analogy that yoga and the particular practices can give you a body tune up. That sounds great. Which we don't always recognize that we do need to fine tune and to adjust and to, as you said, look at the whole energy system and make sure it's functioning optimally.
Relax in the coaching lounge and engage with compelling, motivational speakers. Be prepared to transform your inner world to shape your outer world through empowering discussions. Tune into thecoachinglounge.co.uk now.
We are in the coaching lounge with Jayne Evans, who is a yoga instructor. And in this next segment of the program, we're going to talk about, and this is a surprise to me, I must say, Jayne, we're going to talk about the 10 bodies. So the first one is the one that we all are aware of, the physical body. Can you share with us what the other 9 bodies are, please?
Sure. Actually, physical body is body number 5. So
Is it
I'm
really?
just going to step back a little bit from that before we
Oh,
get to physical body.
well, there you go then. We're all missing the first 4.
Well, we've kind of mentioned some of them, so it will become a little bit more apparent as we go through.
Okay,
Of course, we're going to start at number 1.
please do,
with,
yes. I'm all ears, yes.
with the soul. So our soul or your spirit or your inner essence, it matters not what your belief system is. Everybody knows they've got a little bit of something that gets them up in the morning. So however we wish to relate to that, your soul, your inner essence is our body number one. And when soul is not happy, it's going to let us know about it through our other bodies. Whether we choose to take notice or not is a different matter. And that, of course, would come back to our yoga of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So then we have 3 mental bodies. So the negative mind, the positive mind, and the neutral mind. And the word negative always kind of starts to put people off. Because, oh, well, that's not good then, is it? I don't really want a negative mind. But actually, everything that we have is part of what we are and how we need to function. So negative mind really perhaps would be better called our protective mind. It's just the thing that's reminding you that if you put your hand in that fire, you're going to get burned. So negative mind, really protective mind.
Mm-hmm.
Positive mind, they're spurring us on, our little motivational coach.
Yeah.
And then the aim, of course, where we would like to be in that meditative mind, the neutral mind. So we can go, thank you very much for that warning, negative mind. Thank you very much for that spurring on, positive mind. But I am going to move forward in my neutral mind for my highest good.
Mm-hmm. So it's the using whatever's your experience or your intentions for the highest good.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So then we'd get to the physical body.
Right. Yes.
And we know that our physical body realistically is our vessel, isn't it? It's our vehicle. It's holding all these things together. It's the container for which we're working with currently. Then we get a little bit more ethereal. So you might need to stretch your imagination a little bit for these, because we don't have a Western science that is able to measure some of these things. But of course, that doesn't mean that they don't exist. So we then have the arc line. We actually have 2. I'm afraid, guys, you want one. So we have an arc line that runs from ear to ear. If we wanted to look at that sort of historically, you might say, well, okay, so where my halo would be, a little bit of electromagnetic force. But women also have one from nipple to nipple as well, and that's all to do with our ability to create, to follow through childbirth.
So let me understand that then. Body number 6 is the arc line. How are we spelling that, Jayne?
ARC.
Yes.
LINE, the arc line.
I see, the arc line. I see. That's the first time I've heard of this concept, the arc line. And you've said it could be like, imagine it like the halo, and men have it from ear to ear, and women have it from nipple to nipple. So
And
that's sorry.
And ear to ear. So women have 2 elements.
I see. And that is that similar to the energy, the meridians, the energy connection? Is that something similar?
It's part of your aura,
Right.
which we'd come into as our body number 7. So that greater electromagnetic field. And again, we could relate to this as being the culmination of all our energy centers. So most people have heard of chakras, so your little energy centers that are running up the spine are all part of the aura. So I mean, I recognized as well, after I lost my father, that I felt like everything was coming at me. It was like I had no protection. And part of that excuse me, part of that is about the strength of your aura. And
I must say, what comes to mind, if you don't mind me interrupting here, is that when my mom passed away in 2008, and I was lying on the bed, it was late at night, it was dark, I wasn't sleeping, but I was thinking about my mom, and it was almost as if I felt something release from my navel. As if there was some sort of release, and I felt that, okay, I'd let her go, I'd released her for her energy to go wherever it needed to go. So for me, that part of the chakra system, I think it was the solar plexus. Yeah, I recognize that physical, release of my mother's energy, which I'm connecting from in the womb and the cords, etc.
Absolutely, and I mean it's a two-way thing. Um, of course, you've been blessed with a grandchild, and when
Yes.
the woman is pregnant, then of course that life has also been part of her aura. So therefore, when the child is born, there is again, a gap in that aura, which can take up to 3 years to replenish itself. So it's
Mm,
a two-way street. That
yeah.
electromagnetic field around us.
Mhm.
Um, when it's strong, we can deal with things. It's like your little shield of steel. And
Absolutely.
yes, when it's low, we do feel that things can potentially get on top of us.
Hmm. Okay, fascinating. Okay, and that's number seven, the electromagnetic field.
The aura, absolutely.
Yes. Okay, great.
So nearly
And
there then.
yes, moving on to number eight. Yeah.
So eight we've spoken about as well to a large degree, the pranic body,
Yeah.
so that life force itself, definitely bigger than the breath, but part of the breath.
Yes. Okay.
And then the final two, 9 and 10, are going to be our subtle and radiant bodies. And you will have come across these. We may not have put a name to them, but when you walk into a room and somebody just absolutely is totally radiant, you feel their energy as you walk in the room. You may not know them.
Yes. Yeah, they have great presence, charisma.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So our radiance is the culmination of all our 10 bodies. So again, going back to what we were saying about the importance of having a regular practice of yoga, to be consciously conscious, not just about the breath and the posture and the sound, but what we put in ourselves. It's
Mm.
all those things that are going to come together to improve our radiance.
Mm. I've forgotten the lady's name. She's a very well known a spiritual lady, Doreen Virtue. That's it. She's written a book called Eating in the Light, which I read. And what I loved about that book, similarly to what you're saying, is, the practices that we do that can help us to be radiant. And you said what we put into our bodies is, a part of that. So eating light, eating earth foods, eating fruit, etc., all helps to create this, strong, energetic energy, which is all a part of the holistic well-being, isn't it?
Sure. I mean, for instance, you mentioned light, being light and eating light. Because food has become so readily available, it's quite often the fact that we're eating now when we don't even need to eat. What we're not doing is drinking a lot of water.
Right, yes.
And we are, a big proportion of water. So if we're talking about energy flowing and energy movement, we need to keep ourselves flowing in that same sense. So by eating a lot of processed foods, by eating overeating, and eating a lot of heavy foods, we're actually reducing our mood, putting a lot of pressure on our physical body to get rid of toxins. And again, adding then to that feeling of, heaviness, of inertia, of not being able to move forward with things.
Okay. We are in the coaching lounge with Jayne Evans, who is a Kundalini Yoga instructor. And Jayne, as we come into the last segment of the program now, I just want to touch on, in fact, I wanted to find out, you told us about your journey into yoga, and can you tell us a little bit about your in terms of your teaching practice, how that developed, and then share with us how we can, where we can find your classes and workshops, etc., and some of about your retreats.
Okay. So yes, having had those moments where Kundalini Yoga found me,
Right.
and really did start to turn me around. I mean, I'm talking about a really short period of time, 3 months.
Yeah.
Um, like all things, though, of course, you must do it.
Yes. Yeah, it's got to be physically done, because sometimes we think, yes, we've got these great intentions and it's in the mind and that's where it stays, but actually it's got to transfer itself into the physical practice.
Sure. So I had a moment when Kundalini had made such a big difference to me that I couldn't understand why everybody didn't know about it, and where had I been for the last, you know,
Yeah.
the last 40 years? Why hadn't I come across it before? So I had a moment when I said to myself, you know what, this has made such a massive difference to me. I have to go and become a teacher. So, although there are many, many teachers, schools available in the UK, I took it on myself to quit my job and go to New Mexico.
Wow,
So,
really? That is a fantastic leap of faith. I love that. New Mexico, yeah?
absolutely. So I went to Española, which is where Yogi Bhajan's ranch is. Yogi Bhajan brought Kundalini Yoga to the West in 1969, and he taught extensively throughout the whole world. That's why I was saying that there are places to go in the UK. It was just, I felt this calling to go to the Kundalini Research Institute.
Well, it sounds like you went more or less direct to the source, didn't you?
Absolutely.
You cut out all the crap and you just went straight into the source.
And I did the immersion course over there, and even to this day, so even into the fourth year of doing this, I still don't have sufficient adjectives to explain how amazing that training was, because you are working on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So to spend that time out there on Yogi Bhajan's ashram with teacher trainers that spent their lives learning from him was absolutely amazing. So when I came back,
How long were you there for?
I was there for a month,
Mm-hmm.
and when I came back, I set up my classes. I mean, fortunately for me, I come from a lecturing background, so teaching's kind of in my numbers.
Right,
I
yes.
may have swapped subject matter, but I'm still
Yeah,
teaching.
yes.
And I'm now taking classes in Wolverhampton, in West Bromwich, in Stoke, and I also do some work in Stone. I've been...
That's in Staffordshire, yes.
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 And I'm also doing some adult ed work, also in Birmingham, Stoke, and across Staffordshire and Shropshire.
Right.
So there are many ways to access
Yes.
classes.
And I know that you run classes as well as one-to-ones.
Yes, and of course, it comes down to the individual. We mentioned earlier, not everybody can get out of work on time for a 6:30 class. So we do offer workshops at the weekends on Saturdays.
Okay.
And I've got a retreat coming up in October in Ludlow at a beautiful place called Wandering William. So it's in this 17th century barn conversion, and we're going to have an amazing long weekend of Kundalini yoga, meditation. There's a gong bath, and we've also got a vegan raw food specialist coming who's going to be offering a little raw food extravaganza. So
Sounds fantastic. Okay. So you do workshops, you do one-to-ones, you've got this lovely retreat coming along. How can people get in touch with you, Jayne?
they're very happy for people to email me, to phone me, or check out the blog. So if you want to add the link to that, or I can read out the spelling, I'm at
Yes,
Energetic
please.
Exchange.
Yes,
So
if you can tell people how, the contact details, that would be fantastic.
okay, so my email address is Energetic Exchange. That's ENERGETICKXCHANGE. So Energetic Exchange @gmail.com. You can
Great.
also check out the latest changes with class times or with venues at the blog spot. So again, that would be Energetic Exchange, same spelling, .blogspot.co.uk. Or you can even give me a call, 07931 446 777.
Okay. And just finally, Jayne, I would like you to explain to anyone, listeners or potential students, tell them how they will feel after experiencing one of your classes.
Okay, now this is going to be interesting because, of course, Kundalini Yoga is very much the yoga of awareness of yourself. So as much as students come to me after class and go, wow, that was amazing, it's moved some pain that I've had for the last X amount of years, or wow, I came in with a headache and now I feel so much lighter. It is actually your own experience. So I wouldn't gesture to say you will come to this class and you would feel like this, because we're all in our own journey. We're all at our own starting point. And it's not about, there's a lot of yoga classes that are available in gyms at the moment, and it very much focuses just on that physical body that we were speaking about. So there will be very subtle energetic movements that you may not even feel on that night, but you will begin to be aware of over a passage of time. So it's not about looking at the person next to you and thinking, oh gosh, that person's doing a shoulder stand and there's no way I can even get my arms off the floor.
Right.
So it's very much about an individual experience at the pace that is right for you. We actually do Kundalini Yoga with our eyes closed. So once you've watched the demonstrations, it's very much about that connection with your inner self. But in the long term, whether it's after 2 minutes, whether it's after the whole class, there will be that shift towards just feeling more connected with yourself, therefore giving more time to yourself, being more conscious of the things that we said about what you put in. So for instance, of course, we wouldn't expect somebody to come to class having just eaten, because that's not going to help with your energy flow. but generally, your overall well-being will be affected at whatever speed is right for your particular journey, given your individual circumstances.
So, for example, then, as you've said, it is an individual journey. It's quite subjective to the person who experiences what they experience. I'm imagining, though, that as well as, the physical experience, there might be release of toxins, there might be probably slower movements more through that conscious awareness. What do people say that they feel, perhaps?
Oh gosh, a whole range of things. I mean, we started off at the top of this program, of course, talking about the breath. And sometimes when people begin to consciously breathe, they'll go, wow, I feel kind of giddy.
Right.
And that's actually just because they've got a lot more oxygen now, and they haven't had that for some time, and it's a different experience. But that, of course, again, would lead to detoxification, and some people, we do something called breath of fire, which we didn't mention earlier. We started off with the long, deep breath, and breath of fire is a very energizing and cleansing breath. And when people do that, you can really feel a difference in your circulation. You might start to feel tingling in areas that you haven't been breathing into for some time. But again, it's about that awareness. I would not want to say to people, when you come to this class, this will happen for you. Because then you come with an expectation of something that should happen, which may not be appropriate for you on that evening.
Of course, yes, it is subjective, isn't it? Yes. Okay. So are there any final comments you'd like to make to let listeners know about, or to express from your experience of, the wonderful practice of Kundalini Yoga, Jayne?
Sure, absolutely. Try it and make a commitment to it, not just because you're wanting to look for a yoga class, but so that you can make a commitment to yourself, to your radiant body, to be happier, to be healthier, and to find that time, because it's so important to breathe and to live the best life that you can.
Great, fantastic. Thank you so much, Jayne, for sharing fabulous, important, and insightful information regarding Kundalini Yoga. It's been a great pleasure to have you join us in the Coaching Lounge.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to speak to you. And as I say, if anybody wants to contact me or needs further information, and they can also find additional information on the Kundalini Research Institute site. On the Kundalini Research Institute site. And just to be in an open mind. I think there are a lot of varied elements of information that you can now find on the internet, but to go to that as well and know that what's right for you will resonate for you.
Excellent, fantastic. Thank you so much, Jayne.
Thank you.
Take your place in the Coaching Lounge. Be inspired by discussions with motivational guests, compelling speakers, key people of influence, and models of success. Learn unique processes, strategies, and tips that will transform your life. Tune into previous episodes on www.thecoachinglounge.co.uk. Like our page on Facebook via The Coaching Lounge. Follow us on Twitter @SatelliteCoach. Thank you for joining your host, Rebecca Gordon, in The Coaching Lounge. Tune in, relax, engage, and transform your life now.